Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I don't know what it is recently, but I have been obsessed with cold cases or people that have gone missing, and it's kind of made me a little bit paranoid. But I figured my fascination for this stuff, I might as well, do some research and relay it back to you guys. I've also been binge watching disappeared videos here on the YT, and I am obsessed with them. And there's a couple that I just haven't seen really covered, so I wanted to make my own. I know I can't be the only one that finds this stuff really spooky and fascinating, and what better time to start than in October? It's almost Halloween. So let's go ahead and get started in this first disappear. So on July 28th, 2013, it was a normal Sunday morning in Newtown, Connecticut. 50-year-old Robert Hoagland, also known as Hoagie to his family and friends, went to a local bagel shop and picked up some bagels for him and his son. After he picked up the bagels, he went to a convenience store and picked up a map of the upper United States, so like North Connecticut, Rhode Island, those states. He picked up a map from a convenience store and bought some gas. This wasn't out of the ordinary. His family and friends say that he was a map guy. He always had maps of pretty much everywhere in the US. He didn't really use GPS, so this wasn't unusual for him to buy a map. So Hoagie goes home and shares his bagels with his 23-year-old son Max. This was the middle child of his 3 sons that he had. His wife Lori was on vacation in Turkey with a childhood friend, and she would be returning the following day. Lori and Robert met in culinary school. Robert was a chef and Lori had been attending the school. They met in their early 20s. He was teaching, the new students how to cook and stuff. She spotted him and they have been together ever since. According to Lori, Robert was a very involved dad. He loved his sons, and according to his sons, he always put them before work. So he would make time to hang out with his sons. He actually switched his job from being a chef, which he loved to do, his passion was cooking, to being a realtor so that he could spend more time with his sons and have a more flexible schedule. So around 11 a.m., Hoagie was mowing his lawn, prepping for his wife to come home, tidying up the place. He was mowing his lawn in front of his house, and his son Max went and asked to borrow the car, and he gave him his keys. Little did Max know this was going to be the last time he would ever see his dad. So a little background about Max. Max had been struggling with a heroin addiction and just drug addiction in general. He used to live with his grandmother and had just recently moved back into their house. And Robert had been hiding his car keys, hiding Lori's keys and computers, which later Max had stolen while Lori was on her vacation. So yes, Max is family, but he's also a drug addict. Drug addicts do, rash things. They don't think things through. So while Lori was on this vacation, she had been emailing back and forth with Robert, and everything seemed fine. On Sunday night, she sent him an email asking if he would be able to pick her up from the airport, and she got no response, so she just figured that he would be there. The following day, she arrived in Connecticut off of her plane, and Robert was not there to pick her up, so she had just assumed that maybe he forgot. She tried calling him and there was no answer. She also tried to call his work and see if he had came in, and they had said that he had not shown up for his shift and that they had not heard from him. He didn't call out, and this was very unusual for him. So Lori then got a cab to her stepsister's house, and she started calling all of their family and friends. This is where I'm kind of questioning why she didn't call her son Max if he had been staying home with his father. I would think that would be the first person I would call, even to come pick me up. I would automatically call Max and see what was going on, where his dad was. But she went to her stepsister's house and started calling all of his friends, and no one had seen him or heard from him. So when all of his family and friends deny seeing him or talking to him for a couple of days, around 7:30 p.m., Lori decided to call the local police department and file a missing persons report. So around 9 p.m., the Bridgeport police actually find Robert's car, but it was being driven by his son Max. He was in a bad part of town, his car was parked weird, and this part of town was known for drug use and drug trafficking. So when the cops saw the car there, he automatically pulled him over, started questioning him, and then he put two and two together that this was the missing car and that this was his son. So he actually ended up calling Lori and letting her know that her son had been in a drug part of town and that he had found the car and he was going to arrest him for trespassing. As I had said previously, Max had a history of drug abuse and he had just recently moved back in. He didn't really have trust with his family. The police decided to arrest him and bring him in for questioning. You know, I don't think you usually get arrested for trespassing, but given the circumstances and the fact that Max was the last person to see his father and the fact that he was driving his father's car, who is now missing, they brought him in for questioning. He said the last time he had seen his father was on Sunday morning when he was mowing his lawn. He said that Sunday night when he returned, his father was not home, and then Monday morning when he got up to leave in the morning, his father was also not home. He said that he had tried calling him and there was no answer. The police searched the house looking for anything suspicious and they did not find anything. Everything was left there. His phone, his medication, his passport were all left. He even left his shoes that he wears all the time, and the police found a pair of sneakers next to his lawnmower that was put away in the garage. The case was then assigned to Lieutenant Richard Robinson. He was the detective for the Sandy Hook shooting. I don't know if you guys will, if you live in America, you most likely know what that was. So he was the detective for that shooting, and he was put on this case. Due to the Sandy Hook shooting being so close together, this missing person report of a 50-year-old going missing did not get a lot of media attention, so the detective had a lot of work to do. So initially digging in more and more to Lori and her husband's relationship, police thought that Hoagie had just voluntarily disappeared. His wife had said that 19 years ago he did disappear for 3 weeks. He had got laid off from his job. He had 3 young sons. He was ashamed that he couldn't provide for them. So he went missing for 3 weeks and then came home, and he has not done that ever since. She said, but that time he took his car, he was using his credit cards. It wasn't like he went off the grid completely as he did this time. I also wanted to note that the Thursday before he went missing, he withdrew $600 from his bank, and he was seen on the security footage at his bank withdrawing this money. However, he did have a safe at his house that was full of thousands of dollars, and when his wife was able to get into it, all of the money was still there. So it doesn't make sense that he would run away and not bring any of those thousands of dollars with him. They searched the car that Max was driving with cadaver dogs. They also searched his house with cadaver dogs. They did a 1-mile radius of the house. They figured maybe something had happened, doing yard work or something. So they searched a 1-mile radius with cadaver dogs. They also went again and did a 3-mile radius with cadaver dogs, and they found nothing. 2 weeks later, Lori moved back into her house. She didn't know if it was safe for her to even be staying there, considering they did not know what had happened to her husband. So 2 weeks later, she actually moved back in, and she found the 2 missing pieces that were not accounted for that her husband could have possibly taken with him. That was his wallet and his spare key. He was hiding them underneath her doll she had from her childhood in their bedroom, and this was the last piece of hope that she had, that hopefully he was still out there. So they pretty much ruled out that he voluntarily left at this point, considering he did not bring literally anything. He was actually hiding those things from his son, Max, which is kind of sad that they have to do that, but when dealing with drug addicts, they will steal from you. They will do anything to get high. While Max was brought into questioning, he released a big piece of evidence. He said that his father had came to his, hideout where he would get high with some junkies, and he went there to confront the guys there about his wife's 2 missing computers. So Hoagie had actually hid the computers in his wife Lori's car in the garage, and was hoping that by locking them in there, Max would not get a hold of them to sell them. So Max found the keys to his car and took it to Bridgeport, where he was stripping metal from abandoned buildings to turn in for money for drugs. So if this doesn't explain how desperate he was to get high, then I don't know what does. So he was driving the car to Bridgeport when he realized that the laptops were in the back. He said he went into an abandoned building where he gets high with some junkies, and he hid the laptops under like some blankets or something, and when he was done getting high and hanging out with his friends, the laptops were gone. Clearly this doesn't really make sense. Why wouldn't you just leave them in the car or in the trunk? But he said he was scared that they would get stolen, so you bring them into a abandoned building with a whole bunch of junkies that are also fiending for drugs and will do anything to get money. So Hoagie, furious that his son had just now lost 2 laptops of his wife's that's away at Turkey. You know, any husband would be shitting their pants thinking they're going to get in trouble by their wife. So he decides to have his son take him down to this abandoned building and show him what guys were there when he was there. Hoagie went down there to kind of intimidate the guys. He, you know, had a metal rod and was kind of flailing it at them, saying who took it, where do you put it, like if they had sold it, where were they? He was also checking local pawn shops trying to find the laptops, and the guys there had said that they did not take it. So the altercation pretty much left at that. But to go into a abandoned building with a whole bunch of junkies and your junkie son to confront some drug addicts, trust me, I know, my ex was a drug addict. I know how frustrating it is to deal with these type of people, and I could only imagine his frustration. And when you're thinking like that, you just do things out of impulse. Obviously this was not the smartest idea ever to go in there. He could have put himself in a lot of danger, and this is where I'm starting to think maybe something did happen and Max is just not telling the whole truth. You know, these are drug addicts. They could have guns, they could have knives. You do not know what you're walking into, and if they felt threatened by him waving around this metal rod, you know, who knows what could have happened. Later, the police went to this abandoned building that Max was talking about to investigate. They ended up questioning the guys that were there. They said they did have an altercation and that it did happen, but they did not have anything to do with his disappearance. They even brought cadaver dogs to the building, and they came up with nothing. Since Max was the last person to see his father, he was a person of interest, and he agreed to do a polygraph test. He also agreed to do a written statement, which the FBI cleared that he was saying the whole truth. So he was then ruled out as a suspect. There was also a lake that was easily accessible by his house, and they searched it with a sonar, and it also came up with nothing. In September 2013, Hoagie was allegedly seen walking in Rhode Island on Route 117 carrying a large backpack. This gave the police the idea that he could possibly have just disappeared, went backpacking, and left all of his stuff. Desperate to find out answers of what could possibly have happened, his wife actually hands over his computers to be searched. And a month before he disappeared, he downloaded an app to pretty much clear any searches that he's done on that computer. So the police also came up empty-handed with that. They were confused why he erased all of his things. It could have been for storage, who knows, but there wasn't anything that they could find on it. They also went to his work and searched that computer, and they found that he was searching an address in Rhode Island quite frequently, so they went to the address and it also came up as another dead end. Obviously, all of these sightings were not credible and they did not lead to anything. Later on, a psychic had given a tip that she had seen him as a cook in Myrtle Beach, and this gave his wife hope because if he was on the run, he would do most likely cooking. That was his passion. But again, another dead end. So now moving on to the theories, a lot of internet trolls had said that he had possibly something to do with the Sandy Hook shooting, and he knew something or he was a part of it, and that's why he disappeared. This I just find really sad. I don't think he had anything to do with it. He had 3 sons and he had lived in the community for so long. So I don't think he had anything to do with that. I think it's just people trying to point the blame and kind of making fun of something that's not really funny to me. So I don't really believe that theory. It seems a little far-fetched that he would do something like that, and also that he wouldn't have gotten caught for doing something like that. The next theory is the one that I believe the most. I think his son was a, obviously a drug addict. That was confirmed from his family. He had been in and out of rehab, and his dad had suspicion that he was back on drugs. He later admitted that he was back on drugs. He was arrested for trespassing in a drug-known area, probably had just got done getting high in that area, and he was taking his parents' car. He was stealing their things, selling their laptops. Whether or not they actually got stolen, we don't know. I don't believe they did. I think his son stole those laptops and sold them for money to get high. And I think when his dad went there, you know, who knows what could have happened. These are sketchy people you're dealing with, and to go in there and threaten them may have not settled well with them. Even if they may have not killed him in that exact spot, if they were friends with his son Max, then it would be very easy for them to find out where he lived, and then maybe they could have done it then. I also think it's suspicious that Max saw his dad Sunday morning, was the last person to see him, wasn't suspicious when he wasn't there Sunday night, and wasn't really concerned when he wasn't there Monday morning. You know, if this is your father, you would kind of be a little concerned if he didn't come home at night. So I don't think Max is telling the whole truth. He's probably scared of getting in trouble, or, you know, who knows, if someone did murder his dad, they could murder him if he did say anything. So I think Max is holding a lot of information that he may not be telling everyone. And the last theory is that he just up and left his family. I also find this one really hard to believe. I think he loved his sons based on what his wife had said, and you're not married for, you know, 30 plus years just to up and leave one day, especially when your kids are fully grown and you only have one living in the house with you. So I don't think he up and left. You know, in today's day and age, it's not hard to get a divorce. It's not hard to move states, especially if your sons are full and grown. So it wouldn't make sense for him to just, you know, run away from everything, especially leaving every single piece of anything he would need, ID, passport, all behind. It just doesn't make sense to me. So comment down below what you guys think may have happened to him. I will leave, you know, pictures in this video, and if you do have anything, make sure you leave a tip. This case has gone cold. No one knows where he is, and his body has not been found yet. So if you do have any information, or you do live, you know, up in those upper states of the US, then please make sure to call. I will leave the number in the description box. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in